Yeah, the way I shoot videos like this is we just walk around and we hang out, and we film it, and then I make a video.
So I traded with a friend who is I traded a pretty nice amp for that too, which is I have a Sovtech Tube Midget.
Ooh.
Yeah, the wood panel thing.
Yeah.
It's the angriest JCM 800 ever.
Yeah.
And he wanted that, and I was like, okay, I'll trade you that and some cash for this. But we sort of have an understanding that if we become old men, we need to change our amps back. Get out some of our most enormous pedals. This thing definitely influenced some design thoughts. I studied the emphasis knob for our Arigato. This is Systech Kalamazoo. This is the precursor to Proco.
Oh, sick.
This is like Proco pre-Proco. Ben got me this for a Christmas present because Ben and I are phaser addicts. We had a Maestro in here for a while, so we're just addicts for these.
Case design too.
Oh my god, that thing is a doorstop, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
Why don't people make cases? I mean, I know it's completely impractical and not for a pedal board at all, but that's cool.
Because the veil of death in our industry is custom cases. Like, why don't they make this anymore? And meanwhile, they're like, there's some accountant who's like, do you know how much this cost us every time we made one of these things? It's like that scene in Layer Cake. Have you seen Layer Cake? Get out. I want to fight you. So there's this great scene in the movie Layer Cake with Daniel Craig. It's what got Daniel Craig the Bond gig. And the song Ordinary World by Duran Duran is playing. Daniel Craig's friend loses it because he spots this guy that snitched him out on something. And he picks up it's like one of those jukeboxes that's like at a diner, like a little jukebox. And he takes the jukebox and beats the guy to death because while Ordinary World is still playing on the jukebox, so it's like Ordinary World's getting all messed up, and he's beating the guy to death. And then he tells Daniel Craig, he's like, all right, I gotta go. I think I gotta get out of here. And Daniel Craig's like, what the hell? And yes, it's like, this is about the size of the jukebox. Like, this is another enormous pedal. Well, first of all, I'm sure you played with one of these, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Satriani in a box.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the Flying in Blue Dream sound. Have you ever messed with one of these honkers?
No. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude.
Try shipping that. You'll have the Neutron C200, and it's completely optical in kind of a weird way. And
Pirelli.
yeah.
Pirelli, the rubber, the tire company.
Yep. Yeah, that enclosure cost them a pretty penny too.
So this obviously has the power supply and everything built into it.
Yep, transformer and all.
Right.
And it does a really cool thing where you can wah and volume at the same time.
Weird.
So it's volume and wah, and it has a secretly awesome boost circuit hidden in there.
So that's
as well.
just the boost.
Yeah, you tune it with your guitar pick or whatever, a screwdriver.
Dude, you might be getting a call from Josh Scott.
Oh, no. I'm guarding all of these from God. He has them all already. This is one I want you to play through. Have you ever played one of these?
No.
That's a Hot Chili Tubester. They became the boutique rage in the late 90s. When I want to say Jimmy Page and Joe Perry both bought them, and like all of a sudden people got hot and bothered for them. It's basically a full-size amp. Preamp in there. There's preamp tubes. There's a full-size transformer. The thing weighs about 5 pounds.
Dude.
Yeah. In my brain, I would have understood if this had become like the Klon.
Right.
Because it sounds awesome in like an immediately rewarding way. We'll definitely have to plug that into this and let you go wild. I had one of these, and then when I came on Tough Times, I sold it in the early 2000s. This was on Reverb, and I saw it, and I was like, I gotta buy it. Like, this is the same one I sold.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Have you ever played with one of the old versions of this?
I have the UA plug-in version of this that I use all the time.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Let's have some big pedals, big tone. As Wesley Snipes said, there's always some motherfucker trying to ice skate uphill.
So how do you... so we're amp A and amp B, is that just...
Yeah, it can do 2 separate amps.
Oh, shit.
We're just running amp A right now. This is the B volume, so that's no effect. This is your master tone. This is your volume for A, gain, voltage. And you can hear the thing dying a little as we're sitting there spinning the knobs because this actually is changing voltage to the thing.
Dude.
Yeah.
Sick.
thing's nasty.
I'm gonna be looking for one of those.
Yeah.
So it can run 2 separate amps simultaneously.
Yeah.
Or, so like kind of a dual mono.
Yeah, I think it's dual mono. I've never checked the phase on it or anything.
Right. It'll be fine.
Do you want to change guitars? I have another. We can keep moving through vintage cool guitars.
Absolutely. This is nice. So you did original paint and everything. That's cool. And you got the original store. I like that stores used to do that. I wish stores would do this again.
I've been talking to a couple different retailers about doing that. I think it's just a cool touch. It's just like it reminds people of where it was from, the history of the place.
It's like an old dealership from the 70s or whatever, where you get the sticker. You know.
When I was in Virginia, you saw so many acoustic guitars with the shop called Guitar Works that was in Richmond. You used to see it on the inside, like you'd see like the paper label for the like Martin or Taylor or whatever, and then you saw Guitar Works beneath it. Yeah.
What is this?
So this is a 77 Telecaster Custom. When I fell in love with this guitar online, I called the retailer because I know him, and he keeps trying to talk me out of it, and everything he kept trying to talk me out of it just made me want it more. He's like, hey, I hate to tell you this, but the neck's been shaved. I'm like, good. He's like, oh, they flattened the radius from 7.5 to 10. Good.
Cool.
They put vintage jumbo frets on it. I'm like, good. It's like everything. He's like, I also feel I have to tell you the bridge pickup's not original. The bridges are good. It's like, it's like, oh, the tuners have been swapped for Shaler's. Good.
Yeah.
Like, everything is. This is truly a player grade. I think there's woodworm damage, and the thing only weighs 7.25 pounds. I'm like, good. It's like exactly what I want from a player's grade guitar because it's already swapped out the things that I would have swapped. So the bridge is by Callahan, and
do you know what the bridge pickup is?
Yes, it's a it's by a friend of mine at Righteous Sound in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then, just wah?
Yep.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of wah.
Crazy. The throw it's so much longer than a Crybaby.
Yeah, so much, and it's so much treble emphasis.
Yeah, and then it does volume and wah at the same time.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting.
Weird.
Yeah. So like half of your pick attacks are just disappearing.
Yeah.
But it's so, if you go from this to like, if I get my Dallas Arbiter, it's going to feel so weird to you after this. You're like, what, like.
That's nuts.
But this proves a point I've had. It's hilarious. You've had this pedal now. You've been playing with this pedal for what, 5 minutes?
Maybe.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you like, wait, I can calibrate my feet to adjust to this.
Yeah.
You're like, hold on. And you're working it where you're like, okay, if I keep it here and here, I can stay in my Crybaby ranges.
Yeah.
And if I pick attack more deliberately here,
right.
It's like you adapt.
And it's a really, really smooth throw. It feels substantial.
Yeah. That's how you get a pedal company out of business. You have to build like all that mechanism stuff. Meanwhile, Dunlop's like, we're just gonna turn the crank here and keep making our wah-wahs the way we've been doing it. Yeah, that thing is fun. quality is what gets me on
Yeah.
this. It's so good. Whereas a lot of flangers, I got to be honest, they sound like someone farting through a metal didgeridoo. You know, like, great, we sound like a bad impersonation of the Blue Man Group, like a bunch of pipes clanging. The enhance, I think, is the most important control on there, because it's almost like, how flangery is
Right.
it?
Part of the sound quality of that is because it has the transformer and the power supply built into the pedal versus externally, or no?
I would say more of it is the delay chips they're using. They're using old analog chips from that era. You know, I want to say 3005s, but I could be wrong. I'm about to get torn apart in the comments. And there's also a really nice compander circuit, which is kind of like a compression, just on the wet line.
Okay.
And so the whole thing is just like, it just feels really steady in a way that a lot of modulation stuff doesn't. Part of me just sort of feels like if there's actually transfer in here, they gave a shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I just have this idea that putting as many transformers in your signal path as possible is never a bad idea.
Interesting.
I just think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, they do something. They're always adding something to your sound. Whether it's from the guitar to the amp or from the microphone to the speakers. I just think putting transformers in line is always a good thing.
Part of the magic of what we're capturing here is like, you've transformed here, right? Like this magnet has happened. You've done some stuff here, you've done some stuff here, and then there's a mic as well. You know, it's like none of this is pure. Like none of this occurs in nature.
Right.
You know, none of this is like, this is real, right? All of this is artificial, but it's artificial in ways that are pleasurable. It's like, I like what the magnets are doing to the strings. I like what this is doing. I like what this is doing. I like what the mic does at the end, you know? So they're all affecting things, but in a way that is enjoyable to us. You know? Like, I think that's something that gets lost in some of this when we talk about pure guitar sounds. Like, I mean, Andres Segovia would be terrified at everything that you're doing.
Right.
You know? Like, it'd be like, oh, this is all blasphemy.
Right.
You know? But it's all blasphemy that we're comfortable with. I had all this product development experience, and I had an MBA with an emphasis on marketing and operations. And I was like, okay, what if I design something, and that's what that first wave cannon was, that will be a piece of thunkware for my portfolio. Where they're like, okay, what have you been doing since you've been unemployed? I can go, here, I designed this. And I can point out all the lead user testing that I did, the survey work that I did, beta testing. And so I made, I want to say 43 wave cannons, put them for sale, just announced them through friends. They sold, and then I had retailer interest, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do this until somebody gives me a real job. And nobody gave me a real job. I just keep doing this. It's, you know, it's like being an entrepreneur. It's kind of like being a fugitive. You know? You're like, the scenery is gorgeous, but you're always on the run.
That's a really interesting way of putting that is oddly accurate.
Yeah. You're like, I'm on the run, blah, 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 but if I don't jump trains, you know, they're going to catch me and bad things will happen.
Yeah.
This was my, when shit goes south during the gig, I'm like, fuck it, I'm grabbing this thing. And
Right. Oh, damn. What is that? What, 70s something? What is
71.
This? Yeah. What the hell?
SG 100 Junior.
I've never even seen one of these. What?
There are 272 of them made.
This is peak Norland era Gibson, right? This is peak weird. What the hell is going on in Gibson?
So, you know how Wendy's makes their chili? It's basically leftover hamburgers from the night before they just throw in a pot and like, congrats, here's chili now. Right? This is total Norland chili. They had S100s, which are the ones with like one single coil up here, and they weren't selling. So they're like, oh, we have a bunch of bodies left over. What can we do? Let's put a P90 in it.
And a weird bridge.
Yeah, it's like a harmonica bridge with a cover, so it makes palm muting really weird unless you take that cover off. But yeah, it totally looks like a harmonica shallow bridge. It's just mean as hell.
And then the weird, look at that neck joint. I've never... Is that what they were doing with the SG-100s?
You see, there's almost no tilt to it.
There's none, really. It is like almost like a telly. It's like their version of a telly.
Yeah. And it's literally, they're like, oh, here's a bunch of student guitars we can get rid of.
don't know him, but I know I'm
But
a
you know,
huge fan. Yeah.
So he called me one day. He was laughing about this in his Premier Guitar rig rundown. He called me one day and he was like, "What I really love is like fuzz face, but with the volume backed in, so you could leave the volume stuck."
Right.
And me being an idiot, just completely like heard what he said and just all of a sudden turned Charlie Brown voice and went whoa 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 and made Hawaiian Pizza, which has the volume control kind of built in there, but I think it's something that only tends to work with like certain low gain germanium circuits.
Right.
Here it did just different stuff where it kind of gained out, but have a listen on to this thing first. Yeah.
I like
so
that.
it's just like it nasty gnarls out, but I was like, he really wanted me to make something clean. Oh well. This is my favorite, is when you get this.
Very robotic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like Devo covering Sabbath, you know?
So that's with the. Well, so we were talking about earlier. I like the fact that you use the hieroglyphs instead of typical names for controls, because it immediately pushes you out of your comfort zone of where you would typically be. Because the way I look at these pedals is like, well, I don't know what the hell this does, so I'm just going to tweak it until I figure out what it's doing, and then leave it somewhere and figure out what the next control does.
Yeah, I mean, the hunt is important, and it's a combination of the hunt and the immediacy. Like, we were talking about this with the phaser. Phaser, with this much kind of control and stuff like this, because most phasers are one knob, it's like I knew we needed a safe place where if they just went everything true north, like straight up, they'll be okay.
Right.
You know? So it's like, if you strum and play there, it's just like, it's comforting. Like, the beauty is you can hunt, you can find crazy stuff. Like, you can go here, and go here, and here.